Apple announced its brand new iPhones for the 2018 to 2019 year in the iPhone XS, iPhone XS Max, and the iPhone XR. And since that event, people have been asking one question: what the hell does the R stand for? I think I've legitimately come up with the answer and what Apple was going for, and today I'm gonna reveal to you what I think it means. I wanna get your opinion and see if you agree with me. What's going on, Tech Squad? Andrew Edwards here, editor-in-chief of GearLive.com. If this is your first time here, this channel is all about tech, gadgets, and gaming. So if you're into that kind of stuff, feel free to hit the subscribe button down below along with the bell notification icon so you don't miss any future videos. And don't forget, we now have channel memberships live and in living color for all you guys out there. Big shout out to our newest members, John Prosser from Front Page Tech and Zach Talks Tech as well. If you want to get in on all the rewards and exclusive perks, hit the link down in the description below. Now, as I mentioned, today we are talking about the iPhone XR in particular and what the heck the R stands for. Before we jump in, a quick word from our sponsor, one of my favorite services. If you guys want an easy way to access my YouTube channel, just type in andru.tech and it'll get you here. I love .tech domains because it's not only short, but also perfectly represents me in the type of content that I create. It's easy to remember, and I think that .tech is the perfect online identity for anyone looking to build a strong personal brand or start a tech business. In fact, there are a number of leading startups on .tech who in the last 3 years have raised more than $500 million in funding. These startups are building the future on .tech, and if you're looking to start something of your own, use a .tech domain to create a strong brand. Right now, you can get a .tech domain at 90% off for either 1 year or 5 years. Just make sure to use the code Andru, that's ANDRU, on www.get.tech. Now, I asked some of you guys on Twitter, what do you think the R stands for? Now, it was a legitimate question. I wanted to know if you guys had an idea of what the R might mean, but of course, being Twitter, you guys gotta start trolling. So here's some of the answers I got when I asked, what does the iPhone XR stand for? I got, the R stands for rebate, rehab, random, risky, reduced, rebirth, revolution, ripoff, reduced resolution. That would be two, sir, that would be 2 R's, not one. Reduced resolution. I can't even play with you guys on Twitter. The R stands for ridiculously overpriced, like the other 2 models. That would be the ROLTO2M, whatever. Let's get into some serious talk though. A lot of people expected that what became the iPhone XR would actually be called the iPhone XC. Reason being is Apple released the iPhone 5C a number of years ago when it was the first time Apple released an iPhone in multiple different colors. Not just 2 or 3 colors, but a wide variety of colors. And since we knew that there would be a new entry-level phone this year that would also be available in a wide variety of colors, people assumed, oh, this must be the XC because C stands for color. But I personally never bought into that line of thinking, and here's why. When Apple uses a name, they usually have a meaning behind that name, and they usually kind of stick with what that name stands for. So you have this typical iPhone, and then the following year, you'd have the S model. And every year the S means that you're gonna have a phone that looks almost exactly the same on the outside, might have a new color, but almost every change about that phone happens on the inside. That's what the S means. In the case of the iPhone 5C, the iPhone 5C was actually released as the previous year's iPhone. The iPhone 5C was actually an iPhone 5 for all intents and purposes. It's just that Apple couldn't drop the price of the iPhone 5 as it was constructed with the aluminum unibody. So they took the guts of the 5 and they put it inside of a plastic shell to make it cheaper. But all the parts in the iPhone 5C, which came out alongside the iPhone 5S, those were all iPhone 5 parts, not iPhone 5S parts. Knowing that the iPhone X was going to have an entry-level version, but one that would have modern parts, in other words, it wouldn't have last year's processor, it wouldn't have last year's camera, it would have this year's current specs, the C didn't make much sense to me at all. So before I tell you what I think the R stands for, let's talk about what the iPhone XR is. What makes it the same as the iPhone XS, what makes it different from the iPhone XS, and what does it have that the iPhone XS doesn't have? First, let's talk about the similarities. The iPhone XR has the same A12 Bionic chip with the next gen neural engine, along with the new dual SIM feature. Right off the bat, those are two of the biggest features found in the iPhone XS that you're gonna get in the iPhone XR. The camera is one of the biggest things each and every year on the iPhone, and the iPhone XR gets the same wide angle camera found on the iPhone XS with all of the same features. That makes it a 12 megapixel wide angle camera with an f1.8 aperture and a sapphire crystal lens cover. It's got optical image stabilization for photos and videos, depth control, the new smart HDR feature, local tone mapping. It does do portrait lighting, but it only does 3 of the 5 portrait lighting modes. So you will get natural, studio, and contour, but you won't get the stage lighting and the stage lighting mono modes. You get 4K video at 24 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and even 4K 60. And you also get the slow-mo 1080p at up to 240 frames per second with no limit in recording, as well as the new stereo recording feature. Around front, you get that same true depth camera with a 7 megapixel resolution. You also get portrait and depth control, portrait lighting with all 5 effects, including the 2 that weren't available on the rear camera, and that smart HDR feature. The iPhone XR also gives you faster Face ID, Apple Pay, wireless charging, fast charging. You get a true tone display and a display that supports the wide P3 color gamut. It's the first LCD iPhone to support tap to wake and the gesture-based navigation, because it obviously loses the home button being in the iPhone X line. So there was a lot there, and those are all the similarities between the two phones. You're actually getting a pretty similar phone when you buy the XR in a lot of ways, but not in every way. So let's talk about what makes them different. And let's start out by talking about what the iPhone XR has that the iPhone XS does not. First, the iPhone XR is the longest lasting iPhone battery in the history of iPhone releases. A longer battery than any other iPhone, including the other 2 new ones, the iPhone XS and even the iPhone XS Max. The iPhone XS gets 30 minutes more battery life than the iPhone X, and the iPhone XS Max gets 90 minutes more battery than the iPhone X. Meanwhile, the iPhone XR gets 90 minutes more than the iPhone 8 Plus. Smaller than the 8 Plus, but gets an hour and a half more battery than the 8 Plus. That's pretty incredible. If you want to talk specifics, Apple says talk time on the XS is 20 hours, it's 25 hours on the XS Max and the XR. Internet usage for data is 12 hours on the XS, 13 hours on the XS Max, and 15 hours on the XR. For video, you get 14 hours on the XS, 15 hours on the XS Max, and 16 hours on the XR. And then for audio, 60 hours on the XS, 65 hours on the XS Max, and 65 hours on the XR. If battery life is your main issue, the iPhone XR is the one to get. Other differences, the iPhone XR is available in multiple colors. As we saw, you get black, white, coral, blue, yellow, and product red, and that product red one is looking especially delicious to your boy. And the iPhone XR is the only one to offer a 128 gigabyte tier. The iPhone XS and XS Max start at 64 gigabytes, then jump to 256, and then 512. Meanwhile, the iPhone XR starts at 64 gigabytes, jumps to a more reasonable 128 gigs, and then tops out at 256. By the way, pricing on those is $749 for 64 gigabytes, $799 for 128 gigabytes, and $899 if you want a 256 gigabyte version of the iPhone XR. Now let's talk about what's different. Let's talk about what sets apart the XR from the XS and the features that it doesn't have that you'll find on the XS line. The most obvious is that the iPhone XR has a liquid retina display rather than using an OLED. It packs in an LCD like all other iPhones used before the iPhone X. While the display goes almost edge to edge, the bezels are slightly thicker around the display than what you'd find on the OLED 10 and XS lines. This is a 6.1-inch display, which is the largest LCD used on an iPhone to date, with a resolution of 1792 by 828, giving it a 326 ppi. As I mentioned earlier, the camera does not support the stage lighting modes when you're in portrait mode. So the stage lighting is where you can black out the entire background and either have just you with a black background or you in black and white, again, with a black background. The iPhone XR can't do that. It's IP67 rated instead of IP68, which means the XR can withstand 30 minutes underwater and up to 1 meter of water, while the XS and XS Max can withstand the same amount, 30 minutes and up to 2 meters of water. The iPhone XR does not have a 512 gigabyte tier, so if you need that much storage, you're out of luck there. It also does not support 3D touch, instead using something called haptic touch, which isn't exactly the same thing. It just lets you long press on areas that are supported, and you'll get haptic feedback, but it doesn't work across the entire OS. And lastly, the other thing that kind of sticks out to me is that the iPhone XR does not support gigabit LTE, while the XS and XS Max do. So let's get back to the question, what does the R in the XR actually mean? Apple hasn't confirmed this at all, but I think the answer is simple, and it's a lot simpler than a lot of us have been looking for. I don't think the R stands for any sort of word. It's not an initial for anything. The R stands for R. In other words, R comes before the S in the alphabet, and the XR comes before the XS in terms of where it stands in the iPhone lineup. But there's one more small detail. Like I said, remember why this wasn't called the XC. C stands for last year's tech. The XR is almost a XS. It's not quite there, but it's much more XS than not a XS, and it's much more XS than a lot of people expected it to be. In the alphabet, the R comes before the S, the XR comes right before the XS, but the R in the alphabet is also as close as you can get to an S without surpassing it. And that's exactly what the iPhone XR has done. The iPhone XR is as close as you can get to the new XS and XS Max, but it's almost there, but not quite. That's my opinion. That's what I think the R stands for in iPhone XR, but I wanna know what you guys think. Are you with me on that? Are you against me on that? Do you think the R stands for something else? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure you guys are gonna be trolling, but if you can be serious for a moment, if you wanna troll, give me a serious answer and then give me your troll answer. But I wanna know, do you guys think that I'm on track with what Apple was thinking? Comment down below and let me know. If you enjoyed this one, please do drop a like on this video. Don't forget you can click or tap on my face at the bottom of the screen in order to subscribe for free to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, I appreciate your support. I'm Andrew Edwards, and I will catch you in the next video.